Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third cohort Batch 2 Expo Day. We're so excited to have each and every one of you here in attendance. My name is Logan Nielsen. I'm heading the Detroit Corporate Partnerships focused on growth and expansion of our office here in Michigan. Today, I have the esteemed privilege to be giving the opening remarks. Following the agenda here, I will then hand it over to our partner at Google Cloud, Hendrik Spaepen, who will be giving an amazing keynote presentation for today. From there, we will dive into the Batch 2 startup overviews led by Plug and Play Detroit's own Janae Wilson. There will be will then be giving a brief overview of their companies and then let you know all about what they've been up to during the last batch. Then stay tuned as Plug and Play Detroit's Brooke Rubberchet will be handing out the first ever Detroit Corporate Innovation Award to one of our amazing partners for such an outstanding success throughout this last batch. We will then bring it all back to Janae to close us out with what we can expect next from the platform. And if we go to the next slide. So let's get into it. For those of you who don't already know us, we are the world's largest venture capital startup accelerator innovation platform in the world. We operate with three major pillars. First and foremost, we are a venture capital company. This is where we make our money, investing in over 250 startups per year, or just about one per day. We invest predominantly in seed stage companies with an average ticket size of about $100,000 to $150,000. This helps to fund our accelerator programs. This is where we're running over 60 industry-themed verticals per year throughout the world. Most of you are familiar with classic accelerator programs where they typically take 10% equity stake for around $100,000 in startup funding. What we did was we flipped that model completely upside down and we made it 100% free for our startups to run through our program, providing them with business development opportunities, workshops, office space, and so much more, even including free lunches at our HQ office. But we made it extremely difficult for the startups to be accepted into our batches. Actually, if you go back into our batches, where they're only accepted based off of our anchor partners' tech interest areas that are provided twice a year. Then we go into our database of about 50,000 plus startups, about 1,300 of those being portfolio companies, and we take a machine learning approach to narrow down the batch focuses, leading us into the corporate innovation arm, where we work with over 550 industry-leading corporations, focusing on making tailored startup introductions to supercharge their strategy. Now, if we go to the next slide, we can see that we're not only just doing this for corporations and startups, but we're doing it for a wide ecosystem of change makers, including nonprofits, VCs and investors, mentors, universities, and of course, utilizing the government entities here in Detroit. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, we are a global platform, and here you can see that we're connecting the mobility hubs of the world with 8 automotive-focused locations in Stuttgart, Paris, Beijing, Tokyo, Shanghai, Singapore, and of course, Silicon Valley, where we're fostering a wide ecosystem of change makers and driving innovation at the core. Next slide. Our platform here in Detroit was founded virtually in 2020 with our founding anchor partners Stellantis, BorgWarner, the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification through the state of Michigan, the OFME, and the MMSDC, or the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council, where they help develop and continue to drive the focus of our platform. Since the initial launch of our office, we have graduated 30 startups over the course of 2 batches, and expanded our partner network to include now General Motors, Google, Tenneco, Sanyo Trading, and Joyce & Quinn, with so many more coming. We are now super excited to be graduating the next 12 startups through our third cohort, batch 2. Next slide. Started June of last year, our ventures team began applying the tech interest areas our partners submitted to source both inside our database of 50,000 startups, as well as actively looking outside of our playbook for new and emerging relevant technologies. From there, we formed what's called our tops list, which is an exclusive list delivered to our anchor partners that details the top trends and startups in the field to date. We sent this out mid-August, so our partners had enough time to review and return to us their feedback on which companies they are most interested in working with moving forward. From there, we host Selection Day, where our partners choose those startups they wish to see accelerated through the batch. Again, throughout the batch, these startups are provided with business development opportunities in the forms of POCs, pilot projects, and investments, as well as access to workshops, office space, and so much more. Which brings us to today, where we're celebrating the amazing works of our 12 batch startups that have most recently gone through this program. Next slide. And you can see here, those amazing startups. As you can tell, we've grouped them by their overarching tech focus areas, including tech, connectivity, in-cabin experience, electric mobility, battery charging and smart grids, smart cities, sensors, and autonomous mobility. And as mentioned earlier, you'll have the opportunity very shortly to hear all about them during their pitch presentation portion of today's Expo session. Next slide. One thing that I would like to highlight about our program is that here in Detroit, we truly believe that diversity and inclusion are key to open innovation, and we strongly support entrepreneurs with diverse backgrounds, making it a stated goal to source batches which include at least 40% minority or female-founded startups. Next slide. And you can see here some of the batch 2 highlights where we're graduating 12 startups that include 43% underrepresented founders covering 18 different technology focus areas and have raised an average of about $2.8 million. Our batches are stage agnostic, with predominantly most of the batch being at seed stage, but ranging all the way down to bootstrapped. They have a wide geographic distribution, but with a heavy presence here in the United States, then breaking down into the United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, and Ireland. But before we dive into the startup pitches, I would love to introduce your keynote speaker of today, Hendrik Spaepen. So Hendrik is the Industry Development Manager for Automotive at Google Cloud. In this role, he works closely with the auto OEM suppliers and mobility players in the digital transformation and bringing a full breadth of Google's technologies to bear. In addition, he works extensively with key automotive industry associates and is passionate about supporting the ecosystem here in the Midwest. Prior to Google, Hendrik was a partner at Boston Consulting Group, the BCG, specializing in helping auto and industrial customers tackle their hardest problems, from strategy to GTM to digital. Hendrik holds a bachelor degree in economics from the Harvard University and an MBA from UChicago Booth School of Business. Hendrik, it is a pleasure to have you here today, and the stage is all yours.
All right, terrific. Can you hear me? All right. Well, it is an absolute pleasure to be here. As Logan mentioned, I am a former consultant, and so, in a world like this, I wanted to make sure I had a slide deck prepared. So let me pull up the materials for today, and I'm excited to jump in here. All right. So with that, as Logan mentioned, I'm Hendrik Spaepen, and I'm really honored to be here, honestly. As mentioned, I am the Automotive Industry Development Manager for Google Cloud, and that title is unhelpfully broad, so I thought I could put a little color on it of what that means and what I do. But so essentially, I wear 3 hats within Google. One is working with our corporate customers and partners. The second is working with our engineering and product team. And the third is working with the auto industry. right? And the idea of bringing those three parts together into what I'll describe many times in this discussion as the auto ecosystem. And so for me, my goal here is to really think about bringing the best of Google's technology and the associated technologies to bear in this industry to solve some of the entrenched problems that the business is facing, but really thinking about building that next evolution of automotive. As we'll talk about today, the industry is facing quite a lot of change. I think many of you are familiar with dimensions of that change, but I wanted to put it all in one place just to show, how critical a moment in automotive and mobility we are in, and then share a little bit about what Google is doing across this auto ecosystem to support and help build the next, phase of automotive and mobility. So with that, I will start with just a quick snapshot overview of what Google Automotive is. Google is a very large organization, a very large enterprise that spans not only the Google brand, but also Alphabet, and so our Google X sort of moonshot factory, as we call it. But essentially what we are doing is we are attempting to build an end-to-end automotive technology stack that enables the digital ecosystem for automotive moving forward. And so there's a few different components to that I think is helpful to spell out as we talk about sort of where Google is in this journey. So the first and probably the one that you're most familiar with is around our customer reach platform, right? So this is our ads platform, search, YouTube, associated products. This really is, how do we find customers where they are? How do auto companies, present their offerings to customers where they are? The second is around our data analytics, or really increasingly just AI and ML capabilities. And this is centered around our Google Cloud product. And so that's the piece of Google that I directly represent. But really, as is not new to anyone here, the future of automotive is data centric. And so the race is on to harness that data, to monetize that data, to really make business decisions using AI and ML capabilities, and really importantly, have those not live sort of in a silo within the organization, but really democratizing the idea of machine learning and putting it in the hands of the business. That is our mission at Google Cloud. In addition, we've got an extensive set of platforms around customer experience. So Android Auto, the plugin experience many of you are probably familiar with, Google Maps similarly, and our Geo products, but all of that is getting rolled up into Google Automotive Services, which is the actual in-vehicle experience and the operating system that's being embraced by many OEM partners, and is powering the infotainment experience for the customer in the vehicle. Lastly is our employee experience. So this is around, Coral Edge devices and connectivity, our Google Class product that's increasingly being deployed, particularly on factory floors and where augmented decision-making is needed, and our Pixel products, which many of you are familiar with. And then very importantly, in our Google X division as well, Waymo is well known, but it's really, how do we push the boundary of what's possible in autonomous? How do we accelerate that timeline? How do we develop the technologies necessary to get there? And then Sidewalk Labs around, building smart cities and building, data-enabled cities along with the infrastructure, electrification, and data capabilities that go with them. And so all of these things sit under the heading of Google Automotive. And under that heading, I think it's important to say, we are very proud partners of Plug and Play Detroit. Plug and Play is a very big organization, but we really believe in the mission of Plug and Play Detroit specifically around helping to build the future of auto mobility, right? This, as I will say in a moment, is a very unique moment in time in the automotive business. And really, the idea of partnership and collaboration is core to what's going to be required to get to the other side of this change curve that we're on. And so, I really, really am honored to be here today and to be partnered with Plug and Play Detroit, because, our Google support of Plug and Play is more than just my presence here today and sort of a logo on a presentation, but really it's, we are deeply committed to what you and all the teams here today are building. And so one example is Sibros. So if we rewind the tape about 1 year. So February 2021, Batch Zero Expo. This was a tweet from Plug and Play, basically saying, "Hey, come learn more about Sibros and what we're building with our over-the-air software capabilities." So if we fast forward to January of this year, so call it 11 months later, Sibros is making very big news. They raised $70 million in their Series B. Their commercialization of their product has hit, essentially peak velocity. And Energy Impact Partners were the lead on that investment. But very importantly, Google co-invested. And so we were willing to put our money where our mouth was with our support for Sibros. And it was not just because, oh, this is a good investment, but really because Sibros built a relationship with Google over time. They built on our cloud platform since the company's inception. And really for us, the investment was, yes, let us support you in your growth. But much more importantly, they are a key strategic partner as we build out our connected car platform and our solution set. And so we are collaborating day in, day out with Sibros now, and we're very proud to be investing and supporting them. But none of this would have been possible without the support of Plug and Play. So one more underscore for why this venue, this forum, this day is so important for everyone here. So really excited about that. And then really, I would just underscore this day is all about you, right? There, as Logan just mentioned, it was a lot of work to get to this day to begin with. And all of the teams, the entrepreneurs, the startups here have put in countless hours in building these businesses and building these solutions. And this is a really great opportunity to celebrate all the work that has been done. But I would also say if we zoom up, all of you are working on the bleeding edge, the forefront of innovation, and on some of the biggest topics in automotive and mobility, right? From connectivity to in-vehicle experience to electric mobility, and really the role of batteries and the infrastructure required to power a smart grid, to smart cities, to sensors, autonomous mobility, other capabilities. These are the big topics of our day. And it really excites me that all of you are working against the forefront of innovation in this space. And I will say, it's also a very good thing that all of you are working on it, because as I mentioned earlier, the auto industry is experiencing more change and disruption this decade than I would argue the past 100 years combined. And I think that's something that people say and everybody feels in the ether, that there is a lot of change afoot. But I thought it'd be helpful to spend a little bit of time unpacking that change and saying, what's driving it? What is the surface area of the problem? How do we start to think about potential opportunities for innovation or where the industry is going? So as I think about the industry, I see sort of three major factors coming together to be the force of change that we're feeling right now. So first and foremost in blue, there is very clearly a convergence of new technologies. There's a lot of focus, a lot of attention, a lot of reporting around the new technologies that are converging within the auto business at this moment in time. But alongside that are very rapidly changing customer expectations. There's been an undercurrent of change over the last decade, 2 decades, as the legacy model has continued to sort of become stale. But there are a few different flavors of customer expectations that are evolving that are magnifying this change. And then lastly, there are some key structural gaps and short-term disruptions that have essentially become a force multiplier on this change. And we're really feeling the weight of that change right now. And so I'll spend a few minutes just talking about each of these, just to make sure everyone has the context, everybody sees the change that is coming, and that we can start to think about what is required to adapt to this change and to build the next generation of automotive. So on the first, convergence of new technologies. I suspect many of you have heard the term race to case, but it's a very helpful shorthand for me to think about all of these technologies converging at once. As a business strategist by trade, I can affirm that the convergence, any one of these technologies would be enough to drive significant change in any given industry. But the convergence of 4 of them at once is really what's causing this compounding effect, and this necessity for collaboration and partnership in a way that has rarely been seen before. But so race to case. The first of those technologies, obviously, connected vehicles. By 2025, it is said all new vehicles will be connected to the internet. This is really exciting. This unlocks new frontiers of innovation. This unlocks new revenue pools for OEMs and others, but it requires a significant number of capabilities, go-to-market models, talents that don't exist right now within the auto business. And so the race is on to build the skills, the models, the commercialization path to support the era of connected vehicles. Second, and very familiar to most of you, is autonomous and advanced driver systems. And so, road-ready autonomous requires an enormous software push, right? It is essentially one of the largest machine learning problems of our time, and that requires both the capabilities to build that, but also to process in real time the data flows coming off that, to refine and get it to a level where the regulatory framework, essentially gives us the green light to go. For those who follow sort of more broadly the industrial space, you'll know that John Deere has made a pretty significant breakthrough on autonomous and having a commercial ready to ship autonomous tractor in market this fall. And so that was actually being shipped. And I would say John Deere has built an incredible set of technologies there, and they have one very large advantage versus the autos. If their object detection models or their software indicates something they haven't seen before, they can actually just say tractor stops, right? So they can actually, it's a rock, it's a root, it's a surface pattern that's not detected by the models or hasn't been trained in the models. They can just stop the tractor, and then you have human intervention to resolve the issue. That doesn't fly when you're going 75 miles an hour down the highway and a box falls off the back of a truck, for example, right? So these models need to be so robust, and the real-time data processing needs to be so advanced that this is driving an enormous amount of investment and push, both within the existing auto space, but really as well, new partners, new technology companies coming along to help build and accelerate that capability. Thirdly, sharing in fleets. This is something, we take for granted almost. Uber and Lyft are a way of life now. But really, if you think about it from the structural standpoint of auto, this is causing a massive shift from the legacy model of car ownership to the new model. And this could be, I'm selling individual cars to end consumers, but increasingly moving to fleet owners as the owners and purchasers and liability holders of these vehicles. And really importantly, for a lot of the folks here in the room from our corporate partners or from our supplier partners, this really disintermediates the end customer one more layer, right? It's always been a disintermediate value chain, but this is just one more interesting dynamic as the auto market evolves. And then lastly, of course, electrification. Enormous focus now around the EV transition that's been accelerated quite dramatically. And there's a massive investment happening across the industry in essentially being able to support this transition. I think many of you today are focused on this topic, right? It's great that we can get a lot of batteries into vehicles, and the investment in battery production plants is great. But how do we make the most of those battery systems and enhance the life cycle? How do we accelerate charging time? How do we build out the infrastructure that's required to support those? And how do we actually build a circular economy where we're actually doing this in a sustainable way? These are enormous challenges, and really we're only in what I would call, in a baseball metaphor, the first inning of this change. We're seeing it all happen now, but we're really just in early days of seeing these technologies come to life and the change that's required to get there. Okay, so that's new technologies. As I said, any one of these is big. All four happening at the same time is momentous change. On the consumer expectation side, there's a couple of trends that I wanted to point out and to share with everyone. So the first is an increasing push around personalized experience. I think the term personalization is quite overused and quite generic, but increasingly it is, let me experience the vehicle in a digital way. I don't want to go to a dealer lot and have to sift through 100 cars around the lot. I want to understand what your product is. I want to explore on YouTube some of the product expert videos. I want to understand what's the right vehicle for me, both when I'm in it, but also how it fits into my life outside of it. And this requires a whole lot of change from a delivery model, from from sales to service to ongoing ownership, and changing the dynamic of what's required to deliver against those experiences. Importantly, a key piece of that is just digital engagement in e-commerce. This is taken for granted in a lot of spaces, but in auto, this is a very difficult challenge to solve, right? And there's just been increasing pressure to deliver on this new digital product experience. So think of it as the digital showroom of the future, but also frictionless purchase, right? It's long been known that buying a car through the traditional path is a relatively painful process, and very quickly we're reaching a tipping point where that no longer works, right? And when the need to deliver on the customer expectation on this front is growing. And then lastly, there are a whole range of new go-to-market models, and I've only listed a couple here, but everything from vehicle subscriptions. So no longer do I want to own one single VIN for 5, 8, 10 years. I actually want to have a subscription model with an OEM, and I want to have a truck one day, I want to have a minivan the next, and I want to be able to have an SUV for summer getaway trips that I'm planning. That's one model. Another is digital recurring revenue. This is a big topic in the industry, of course, but how do I think about unbundling the car experience and giving customers the right of choice of what they want to subscribe to? We always had this in the infotainment stack around, Sirius XM, for example. Pay us, $5.99, $9.99 a month, and have access to this great tool. But increasingly, the ability to push over-the-air updates, the ability to push digital capabilities to the vehicles, unlocks a whole frontier around recurring revenue models, which are very valuable in the public market space, and also gives customers additional choice of how to engage and how to own a specific product. And then shared ownership. We mentioned that a moment ago, but that is really changing the relationship with a vehicle. I only want it for 3 hours. Therefore, my tie to a given OEM might be lower, or it might be stronger, depending on my preferences or what I'm looking for out of a vehicle. And so the commercial models for a lot of our OEM customers are changing very rapidly, and it's putting a lot of strain on the legacy model that exists. And then lastly, I'll touch on some of the structural gaps and disruptions. So the first, and this is much reported as well, but is talent and skill gaps. Essentially, we are under an umbrella shift from a hardware-focused vehicle, right? We're doing hard product engineering. We're delivering a combination of steel, fabric, and other materials, and that hardware needs to work in a certain way. To that is insufficient to compete. It's really a hardware and software focus that's required to compete in this space. And so to be able to deliver on that software push requires, an enormous talent shift as well to be able to deliver on it. And so there's quite a scramble and a race on for software and digital talent more broadly. And this has been much reported in terms of some of the large numbers of folks certain companies are looking to attract, and even causing bidding wars to buy out smaller companies, basically to attract talent rather than the product. So for those in the room with a technical bent, you've known for a long time, but let me underscore, you are hotly in demand in the auto space, given all the change we've talked about. But that's only really one piece of the structural gap. A second is our legacy infrastructure, particularly here in the US and particularly in the Midwest. We have an aging core transit infrastructure, just traditional roads, bridges, and the like. But that requires a significant investment to support, and not to mention all of the next generation infrastructure that we're going to need to support the new models of mobility. So that could be, in its narrowest definition, EV charging, but you could think more broadly about, on-road charging capabilities. You could think about new highway systems that are tailored to more autonomous driving. You could think about essentially reworking 15% of the square footage of every home in America that's right now dedicated to a garage space. In a world of autonomous, you may not need that, and you may need airport fleet parking outside of metro areas, and then deploy on demand, right? So you can think about the amount of change from a physical infrastructure landscape that's required. Right now, the demand for that change is far outstripping the supply that we have today. So it's really a question of how do we do more with less. Part of that is the regulatory gridlock, and I'll touch on this very briefly, but right now in the US, it is a very divided political process, and that results in very slow moving public sector support whereas in prior generations of this sort of change, we've been able to move more quickly from a public sector standpoint to deliver against some of that change and deliver against the infrastructure needs. So whether it's EV tax credits or the Build Back Better bill or just EV charging or any of these topics that we've mentioned, the fact is public sector is not the way that this is going to get done. And so ultimately it will come down to the corporate partners in the room here, the startups, the innovators in the room to solve these challenges. And that's made harder in the near term around some of the supply chain shocks we've felt, right? So the pandemic introduced a lot of change into a lot of our lives. I am coming to you live from my basement, right? This is something I've gotten used to, but I'm excited to start getting back in the room with everyone. But those supply chain disruptions really revealed some fragility in the underlying supply chain of automotive. So whether it's initial shutdowns in China and the reliance on components and supply there, or the Canada bridge shutdown and how we take for granted almost the bridge between Detroit and Canada and how vital that is to our production and to be able to conduct business in automotive, to chip shortage, not to mention the global conflict in Ukraine now. Really, we are talking about a very, very fragile supply chain that for decades on end has been increasingly pulled taut for optimization and not for resilience, right? And so we're in this place where we are on a very stretched thin supply chain, having to also support all the change we're talking about here. And so that's a lot. And you're right. If you add up all of the things we just talked about, it's an enormous amount of change. And it is a very unique moment in time. And I would also say it's a huge opportunity for all of you. You are in the right place at the right time, working on the right topics. So I applaud all of you for that strategic foresight or luck, if it were that. So, what is this? Where do we go from here? What do we do? I would say that, managing this degree of change, unlike almost any other time in the auto history, this really requires a team effort, right? No single stakeholder in what I call the automotive ecosystem can go this alone. And so you're seeing very unique collaborations, coordination, partnerships happening in a way that historically in day-to-day business times, the auto business is a very competitive business, so it's sometimes a bit insular. Now we're seeing some of that competitiveness dissipate and new collaboration models emerging. And one of those collaboration models is with Google. So Google aims to support each part of this auto ecosystem with, on the production side with our corporate and strategic partners, on the innovation side with entrepreneurs and startups, as I mentioned with Sibros, we really aim to help support all of you to grow. To the industry side around the Detroit ecosystem and how do we ensure that Detroit is the home of automotive moving forward? And then lastly on talent, how do we get people the right set of skills to match the challenges of our time and the change that we just described is happening. So let me tick through each of these very briefly, just to give you a little bit of a flavor of what we're doing in that space, and also to maybe spark some ideas of how we might be able to collaborate going forward. So on the corporate side, this is a snapshot view of the Google Cloud transformation solution set. And this is what we're working with our corporate strategic partners on day in and day out, right? So it is across the top, the end-to-end value chain of automotive as it's constructed. So we're focused very heavily on how do we unlock the software-defined vehicle, right? So with Ford Motor Company, one of our strategic partners, how do we really think about the connected vehicle ecosystem, whether it's the connection between vehicle and driver, between vehicle and home, or vehicle and its surroundings, right? How do we build the right ecosystem? How do we set up the right models? How do we do that safely? And how do we also, build new revenue pools along the way? Secondly is, really around customer experience. As I mentioned a few times, the legacy model of car buying and car ownership is very, very rapidly disappearing. And how do we build a personalized customer journey? How do we reach customers in a new way? How do we put the product in the palm of their hands so they can experience the product without having to go to a dealer lot and spend a Saturday morning sort of walking the aisles? And so really this is about how do we reach customers? How do we give them their own journey to experience the product and also support their ownership of the product and engage them and support them along the journey? Upstream of that is, the intelligent operations. So we have invested very heavily in building the intelligent manufacturing data engine. So think of this as the core underpinning data engine that can orchestrate a lot of the IoT signals coming off of, the factory lines and inbound supply chains, and really structure and process that data in real time. And so we are really working closely with many of our partners, but our signature customer here is Renault, who's gone all in with us on this intelligent manufacturing data engine. But how do we roll that out and revitalize our operations in a world where we're building new products and on a razor thin supply chain and with a rapidly evolving supply network as well? We think that efficiency is the key to that, and transparency is the key to that. And so we provide the data and analytics capabilities for that. And then lastly, R&D and innovation, right? So this is how do we supercharge R&D around some of these topics like autonomous or product development, and really complementing that with high performance computing on demand that can scale to the demand at hand, right? If this is regular day-to-day driving and we can manage this in a low data consumption way, versus this is new simulation, this is real-time decision-making, you need to scale up and scale down that computing power. And so we're working with many of the new mobility players on this front. Very importantly as well, just how do we help our corporate customers become digital enterprises? There's an enormous amount of change, as I said, remote work, the need for innovation and the right tools and methods to support that. So we bring essentially Google's brand of innovation to customers that we work with. And then lastly, sustainability. We operate this cleanest cloud, and we have a set of tools and capabilities that can really make a dent against some of the critically important ESG objectives that many of our customers have set forth. And so this really is the solution set that we're working with our corporate partners on. But for the startups, really we see this as open source as the key to unlocking value, right? Core to Google's values is this idea of open source, that it solves real world problems for everyone. We are not a company that looks to build and protect our moats. It's really how do we build and scale and help others develop in this area. And so very simply, that flows through to the set of products we build are all open source. The set of releases we have, all of this is open source and the licenses are available. And then we also support this, right? We foster the inclusive environment. We're supporting the developer community very closely. And very importantly for everyone in this group today, I would give you two offers today. The first is a very clear sort of nuts and bolts, dollars and cents offer to build on Google Cloud Platform. We have something called the Google for Startups Cloud Program that essentially provides an on-ramp and support to allow you to build your business. And so there's a set of qualifying criteria to apply here. But think of it as, if you apply and you qualify, you get an initial $10,000 in Google Cloud credits to essentially start building today. And then as you scale, you get up to $100,000 per year in the first 2 years on Google Cloud. So we're really looking to support your growth from real dollars and cents standpoint, but then also just engage with us, right? Our startup program includes access to experts and investors. But even outside of that, we in our auto team, we run this what we call AI and ML Garage series. So this is bringing together a set of experts on these topics and running a set of real hands-on, build sessions, for lack of a better word. And we also have a wide range of on-demand training that's public, free for everyone to use and to upskill. And then lastly, I'll make a personal ask here. I'd love to connect directly. I've had a chance to meet some of you leading up to this session, but looking forward to meeting more. This link here goes to my LinkedIn profile. I'll send out this document after. I'll ask the Plug and Play team to do so. But Hendrik Spaepen on LinkedIn, there aren't many of us, so I'm sure you'll find me. But yeah, I'd love to connect, discuss what you're building and see how Google might be able to support. So we've talked about corporations, we've talked about startups. Very importantly, the ecosystem of Detroit is critically important. And I would say, if we look back over the last 20 years, the idea that Detroit is the home of automotive is not guaranteed, right? It's not a birthright. And if we go back to 2009, you saw a lot of articles, publications like this, right? The Tragedy of Detroit. How did we get here? How was a once great city, crumbling under the weight of change and time, particularly at the height of the financial crunch then? This was really the narrative of Detroit, right? The tragedy of Detroit. If we move forward to 2014, there were a lot of open questions. And if Glenn Stevens is here, he would be proud of this snapshot. He talks about this quote very often. But this was July 8th, 2014, in front of the Wall Street Journal. The future of the car is in Silicon Valley, right? Google is based in Silicon Valley. But really, to me, this was a cause for change for a lot of folks tied to Detroit and to the auto ecosystem. Is we don't want that change to happen, right? And I agree. Detroit and the Midwest being the home of auto mobility is critically important to me and to many others. So if we move forward to 2018, we start to see some change happening, right? This is a big moment when the Ford family, or Ford Motor, basically made an investment to buy back the Michigan Central train station. This was essentially the symbol of Detroit's past glory and like a symbol for its ruin. And so, Ford essentially said, we don't want that. We want to rebuild, and we want it to actually be the symbol of change for Detroit. And we're going to put our mobility hub and our future operations in this facility. So that construction is underway. And I personally am very, very proud to work for a company like Google, who earlier this year, in February, we made a very real commitment to sign on as a founding member of Michigan Central with Ford, right? So Ford has graciously opened this up and said, this can't just be a Ford-only campus. We want to build a center for Detroit and a center for mobility moving forward. And so Google has signed on as the second founding member alongside of Ford, but I suspect there will be many more as we move forward. And so this is just one symbol of what Google is doing to support Detroit, the Midwest, and really in building the future alongside the auto ecosystem. So, Michigan Central is many things, but core to Google's investment in Michigan brings me to my last piece around talent. Essentially the core investment we're making is both to be part of this mobility ecosystem, but really focus on bringing Google's brand of talent development and upskilling to Detroit, right? And so it'll be the home base of Code Next in Detroit. And so this is a quote from Ruth Parrott, who's the CFO of Alphabet, but essentially it's, this partnership brings together the automotive and technology industries to equip job seekers with the skills needed to deliver on the change coming forward. And Code Next, think of it as a physical space, but also sort of a mission around working with high schoolers and beyond to cultivate the next generation of Black, Latinx, and Native tech leaders. And so this is critically important for us. So this will give us a physical space, a physical home base in Detroit to accelerate our missions around Code Next. And our goal is to really help close some of the talent gap and the opportunity gap that exists in the auto space and in Detroit specifically. So we're really proud to partner here. I think this is an opportunity for all of us in this room to get together and co-innovate together and moving forward as this space comes online. So I'm really excited about that. And I'll close by just saying, I, as a representative of the Google team, we're all really excited to partner with you and building the next generation of automotive together, whether on the corporate side, whether working directly with all of you today, but being part of the ecosystem in Detroit, or really thinking about how do we bring the right talents, how do we scale all the benefits we've been given and sort of help pay it forward to meet the challenges of our time. Think of Google as a core partner in all of that with you. And then lastly, I would just say a big thank you to the Plug and Play team for having me today and for all of you in hearing me out today, right? So I would really like to think of this as the start of a conversation rather than a sort of one-off presentation. But so please do reach out to me online. This is my contact. It's hspaepen@google.com. But more importantly, meet me in person. I'm based out of Chicago. So if you're based anywhere near here, or if you're in Chicago, let me know. We can meet up in the Google office there. I'm in Detroit about half of my time. So that we've got our office there in Little Caesars Arena that I'm sure you've seen. Or lastly, I'm very excited that Plug and Play Detroit's office space is open, and I'm very excited to be in and around there often. And so apologies in advance to the Plug and Play team. I'll be in your space often, but I really am looking forward to partnering with all of you and really to learning more about everyone and what they're building here today. So I will hand it back and just say a big thank you to everyone.
We're excited to have you. Thank you again so much for that talk. It was really engaging. Now we're going to go ahead and get started with some of the startup presentations. So first up, we have Bia. Bia manages EV charging to lower costs, deliver efficient operations, and seamless integrations.
Hi, my name's Candace, and I'm the CEO and founder of Bia. Unmanaged EV charging is expensive. It causes large peak loads and increases demand for non-renewable energy. E-fleet and multi-use charging sites struggle with data management across different brands of hardware, and they challenge to operate priority charging. They experience unnecessary infrastructure and energy costs. Bia is a software company for EV charge management. We've built a technology platform that lowers operational costs, ensures the cleanest charge, and enables clean growth. Our core services are designed to meet customer needs today and support their long-term growth over the coming decades. Business intelligence and data services provides aggregated charging data into one API or platform. We help our customers learn from utilization trends and associated costs. We're hardware agnostic, allowing us to deliver a global view of your charging sites in one instance. We have built an optimization engine that delivers energy cost management, peak load management, sustainable charging, battery health services, and grid services such as demand response and Battgenie. Our forecasting and simulation tools help our customers grow. For example, we can simulate EV charging loads and energy costs as EV sites grow from 10 to 50 to hundreds of chargers. For utilities and energy retailers, we can simulate much larger data sets for planning and grid services. We deliver savings through a number of metrics. On average, we can reduce peak loads by 80%, we can reduce energy costs by 50%, reduce carbon footprint by 70%, and decrease battery degradation by 40%. Over the last year, we've become the market leader in Spain with revenue-generating customers and strategic B2B partnerships. We have a SaaS business model. We charge an implementation fee to set up the ecosystem, and then a monthly charge per EVSE or EV. Here's an example of a customer with 6 charging sites. They have 140 chargers, 3 different brands of chargers, plus on-site solar. We're able to integrate all these different assets and then reduce the peak loads by 72% while delivering the desired charge for every vehicle. Our core areas of differentiation are co-optimization and AI-driven forecasts. All our tools and features can be delivered through a white-labeled API. Our systems integrations with on-site solar, energy management systems, fleet management platforms, and utility APIs. We're hardware agnostic, and this is a major advantage for our customers. We've heard from many of them that they do not want to log into multiple dashboards, and they really need one global repository for EV charging data, utilization analytics, and charge control. Finally, we have a commercial grid services project in both demand response and Battgenie. This is market dependent, yet we believe that it will become a core offering in the next 2 to 4 years. We believe this is an incredibly exciting time for Bia. Stakeholders are all acknowledging that there is a growing technical need for a platform that can consolidate data, optimize real time, and provide tools for EV charging growth so that it'll be cost effective and sustainable. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to your questions.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Bia. Now we're going to move on to our next startup, which is Bluedot. Bluedot is building banking for electric car owners. Here we go, Bluedot.
My name is Celine, and I am one of the co-founders of Bluedot. Currently, the utilization in the charging station networks is less than 10%, which means that these charging stations are being idle more than 20 hours per day. And it is because the consumer experience is pretty poor, while charging at public stations are a lot more expensive than charging at home. And at the same time, EV drivers dwelling 20 minutes longer than non-EV drivers, which means that they're spending more money in the location that they are actually going to. Seeing that different pieces, we are helping charging station companies to increase their revenue and the utilization with the help of different sustainable brands, showcasing themselves to electric car drivers. Our EV drivers can access and pay in any vehicle charging station. and which is also sponsored by sustainable brands, so that we are offering at least 10% discount on any vehicle charging station. And at the same time, our drivers can claim special offers in nearby businesses, and they can drive and earn with us. We already built it. Our application is alive in both stores, and then people are using it. Please feel free to try it out. And currently, we reward as people drive to give them a location-based offering. So we know where they stop, where they start their trip, what are their brake levels, and they can discover different offers nearby charging stations and access and pay in any vehicle charging network that they want, while saving money on EV charging. So different than just being an aggregator, we have a really strong fintech angle, which we cover different transactions going through the charging stations. At the same time, we got our bank approval, and then we want to create a system for other cars, like a Tesla charging experience where they can just plug and charge. And in a nutshell, our fintech perspective makes us really unique, so that our drivers can connect their car with their cards, get free charging powered by sustainable brands. We are growing around 45% per month, and our users are staying 20 minutes on average with our app. And just targeting the 10% of the market, we can get the $2 billion market opportunity, and we are in between of vehicle fueling, charging commerce, and financial services with the help of direct payment and commerce-driven charging. We already got a lot of demands from fleet operators to solve their payment problem as they go to electric, and the part of infrastructure bill is also pushing charging station networks to go bigger and then becoming more accessible. And me and my co-founder was working at different car brands, and our team has a different backgrounds on building a mobile application for consumer and fintech angle, and as well as community side. And today we are looking forward to meet with more charging station operators, and as well as auto dealerships and OEMs, so that we can offer better experience for their drivers as well, and open to meet with different sustainable brands who wants to showcase themselves in to electric car drivers.
Thank you to Bluedot. Now we're going to move on to our next startup, which is Battgenie. Battgenie has fast charging and longer life for lithium-ion batteries in all applications, EVs, consumer electronics, and stationary storage.
Hi, I'm Chintan Pathak, co-founder and CPO of Battgenie Inc. Concerns about safety of batteries and speed of charging are major impediments to the widespread adoption of electric vehicles. This is a problem widely recognized, and to solve this, ARPA-E, Department of Energy, gave us $5 million in funding to solve this problem. We filed 4 patents and have independently validated this technology at National Renewable Energy Lab. We have revenue from our customers on several projects where we are integrating our solutions on their platforms. So what do we really do? Battgenie enables safe, fast charging and provides an improvement in cycle life in excess of 100% for electric vehicles, consumer electronics, and grid storage battery applications. We do this through the use of physics-based battery models without needing any hardware upgrades to the existing platform. We've been able to solve these physics-based models in the same memory and computational footprint as empirical models, while keeping the full fidelity, accuracy, and benefits of a physics-based model. Here we see the results of our model on a 16 amp hour NMC pouch cell. Using the traditional approach, the battery lasted for 900 cycles, whereas using our way of charging, the battery lasted for over 1800 cycles. This means if a traditional car battery lasts for 6 years, using our method of charging, it can last for 12 years or more. This increase in life can be traded for faster charging or an increased depth of discharge, ultimately providing you with more usage time. Battgenie has demonstrated performance improvement on a range of batteries and is currently working with several EV device and battery OEMs in US, Southeast Asia, and Europe. Please talk to us if you would like to know more about what we're doing and how we are changing the way you charge the batteries and safely manage the batteries. Thank you.
Thank you to Battgenie. That was great. We're going to move on to our next startup, which is Chargenet. Chargenet Stations software platform makes it seamless for quick serve restaurants to offer customers an opportunity to eat great food and charge their EV while reducing the QSR's operating costs. Let's go for Chargenet.
Hi, I'm Tosh Dutt, CEO of Chargenet Stations, and we're building a SaaS company helping quick serve restaurant owners integrate and extend food sales in the parking lot with EV fast charging and renewable power infrastructure. As EV adoption moves to the masses, the experience for the everyday driver has to evolve. Right now, charging is a planned event. It's difficult to access and causes lots of anxiety. Also, finding a charger near where you want to do something can be really challenging. In the next few years, we'll have over 5 million EVs on the road, and we'll need more than 250,000 public EV chargers to charge them all. And our utilities and current charging infrastructure already can't keep up. Also, COVID really hurt restaurants bad, and we help them recover by bringing a business model that solves all their problems together. Currently, the US only has 4% of the EV chargers we're going to need to support 64 million EVs on the road by 2040. And with 53% of all miles driven in EVs exclusively by that time, meaning this gap is going to require $80 billion of investment. Our hardware-agnostic SaaS platform we call Chargenet uses point-of-sale data to maximize savings, reduce operating costs, generate more carbon credits, and improve charging station utilization while minimizing the amount of energy that we buy from the grid. We're moving fast to complete our MVP, grow sales, and scale fast. We just finished our first site, and we have another 7 that are quickly following up behind it, with a goal of 80 to get done by the end of this year. We've been fortunate to partner with some amazing notable tier 1 vendors and partners like Tritium, Delta, and ChargeHelp. We're grateful to be a part of Plug and Play's Detroit accelerator, and have previously gone through Lacey and the Brink. We're not alone in the market, but we're still a nascent industry with the needs to fulfill it growing. What's unique about us is that as hardware technology evolves and EV batteries get more range and charging becomes faster, so will we. And we can drive more profitability and revenue as a result. Basically, we work with project financiers that pays Chargenet the capital cost to work with contractors to install the hardware and cover SaaS integration license and SaaS maintenance fees. We're also able to collect other revenue streams as well, and all the revenues, certain revenues are shared between all the parties. As you can see, we're able to create value for every stakeholder, to the asset owner, to the franchisee, and to Chargenet, along with EV drivers as well. We plan to grow Chargenet with a 95% gross margin on software yielding $35 million in revenue with a 40% EBIT. We're actually on track to exceed our goals this year, and I can talk about that offline as well. We have an exclusive agreement to integrate our solution at 150 Golden Gate Bells, Taco Bells in California. We're currently building 80 in the Bay Area and 75 in SoCal, with about half of that being done by the end of this year. We also have other agreements with restaurant groups that we have not announced yet. So we have a diverse and accomplished leadership team that's growing real fast. Our team's commitment to diversity and empowering underrepresented talent is a huge statement about who we are and how it's defined our careers. We also have a really strong advisory and accomplished board of directors too as well. We just finished raising at the end of the 2021 our $6.2 million Series Seed at a 24.2 million post. We will be raising a Series A towards Q4 at the beginning of Q4. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you so much to Chargenet. We are now going to have a live Q&A session between Bia, Bluedot, Battgenie, and Chargenet, and then we'll move on to the next startup round of questions or presentations. But if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A function now. And also, Bia, Bluedot, Battgenie, and Chargenet, you can turn on your cameras and you can introduce yourselves while we get some of those questions going.
Hi everyone, I'm Tosh Dutt. I'm with Chargenet Stations.
Hey, my name is Celine. I am with Bluedot.
Hi, I'm Candace, CEO and founder of Bia. Hi, I'm Chintan Pathak. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Battgenie Inc.
Thank you all. For the sake of time, we will only have time for one question, and each founder or startup will answer that one question. So for your round, our question is, supply chain issues seem to be the latest hurdle in the adoption of EVs. Has this impacted your businesses? And if so, to what extent? We can start with Bia.
Sure. So great question. And thank you so much for having me and for everyone that's joining today. Supply chain has been interesting for us. We're a software company. So in one sense, it wouldn't look like it directly affects us. But what we're seeing as a sort of typical initial engagement is almost every one of our customers has more than one type of brand of charger. So we really focus on e-fleets, like e-bus fleets or corporate fleets or places that have multi-use parking sites. So numbers of chargers in a condo building parking or a workplace parking. And almost every site has different types of brands. And I think as procurement changes and evolves, either through constraints or through new models coming on, we're not going to see that stop. So one of our core offerings, which is data aggregation, where we do telemetry within any brand, really helps our customers be able to see a global view of charging costs, loads, and what's coming online from different changes within the charging behaviors. So yeah, procurement is really important. I think it's going to continue to evolve, and our software really helps our customers see across the different brands.
Great, Chargenet. We have the same question for you. If you need, I can repeat the question too.
No, it's all good. Like Candace had shared, and thanks for having me. This is great. We're having to take a more long view of our supply strategy. We're a hardware agnostic infrastructure developer and also software developer. So for us, like having the variability in supply chain by having multiple vendors, multiple suppliers is really important. And also we're finding that we have to make a lot more advanced deposits on equipment just to make sure that we can meet our supply for the end of the year. So it's, instead of kind of, sticking with one horse, we're having to spread ourselves amongst different horses to ensure that we can meet our success.
Thank you, Tosh. Let's have Bluedot go next.
Yeah, actually someone asked me, how did I decide to focus on Bluedot? Maybe I can answer that. It's in the Q&A. So me and my co-founder has been like working with different car companies and like solving their problems. Like back in 4 or 5 years ago, also like doing a lot of in-car applications for them. And then saw that like electrification is one of the biggest like hurdles for them in terms of how to like deliver the best after sales experience to consumers. So like after working with a lot of car companies, we also build a lot of charging stations in different places. And like worked with different municipalities and saw that like it was also a hurdle for like charging station companies to increase their utilization rates. And then decided to actually like solve that problem around just charging and OEM side.
Thank you. We'll have Battgenie go next, and I'll repeat the question. Supply chain issues seem to be the latest hurdle in the adoption of EVs. Has this impacted your business? And if so, to what extent?
Yeah. Thank you for organizing the event. And yeah, I guess we are in the same group as the rest of our companies here. We do software primarily too, right? So supply chain doesn't directly affect us per se, but it affects us in secondary ways, right? So some of our the companies that we depend on, for example, testing equipment now is more delayed because of the chip shortage that's kind of associated with this. In terms of the secondary markets that we target, we also provide stationary storage solutions using second life batteries. And so we were creating the solution last year for the city of Everett, where we used, some of the local bus batteries in a reuse energy storage project, and we could not find the container, the shipping container where we were going to, store these batteries, because again, that's a market that's under high pressure right now. And so it's like getting some of the parts for our projects has been difficult, and that we hope sort of eases on as the industry matures and as the post-COVID impacts sort of go away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for answering this question. We have the poll going, so if anyone would like an email introduction with any of the startups, please answer that poll. Now we're going to start our next round of startup pitches, and we're going to ask that the last startups go ahead and turn off your cameras, and thank you so much. So our next startup pitch is actually going to be coming from Meili Technologies. Let's go ahead, Meili.
Hi, I'm Sam, the CEO of Meili Technologies, where we're revolutionizing in-cabin safety with deep learning for detecting medical emergencies in vehicles to stop crashes and save lives. Meili really came about because my dad, Gary, had very severe epilepsy, and we lived in a rural area in Florida, so we didn't really have much public transportation. So eventually he lost his driver's license, but because it was difficult to get around, this actually took quite a toll on his quality of life. But my dad was a computer scientist, and so he and I used to talk about what technology could do to give back his independence and mobility. And so Meili really is for helping people like my dad to regain that independence. But of course, it's not just my dad. Hundreds of millions of at-risk drivers around the world would gain difference-making peace of mind with a system like Meili. Many would drive far more often for longer, and many would also buy cars for the first time. And we know this because we've talked to them. For instance, Michael, he had a breakthrough seizure while driving on a highway in Los Angeles and crashed into a concrete wall at full speed. Since then, he's been afraid to drive. He moved to New York for the access to public transportation, sold his car. But he said Meili would be the product that gets him behind the wheel again. And many other companies are focused on driver attention monitoring, driver drowsiness detection, but Meili builds upon this technology and takes it one step further by concretely determining when the driver needs the vehicle to take action to stop a crash and to get them the help that they need. And so we do this with a number of inputs, visual inputs like facial landscaping, body pose estimation, and vital sign inputs like heart rate and respiration rate. And we're purely software offering using these inputs coming from sensors already available in the vehicle. And so once our models receive these metrics, they can determine when a medical emergency has occurred. And when it does, tell the vehicle to take action to stop the crash, such as bringing the car to a stop, turning on the hazard lights, or unlocking the car for first responders. In addition, relevant vital sign information, estimates of demographics, and information on the vehicle, make, model, and location are sent to emergency services so that they have a heads up on what to expect when they arrive and can find the vehicle and the driver more easily. And so we're currently raising our seed round, focused on growing out our team, our technology, and building out our already extensive proprietary data collection. We're also negotiating some POCs with a number of corporate partners, many of which we were introduced to from Plug and Play. So thank you for that. And of course, always looking for more. And we'll be wrapping up those POCs as of early next year. And so a little bit about the team. I have a bachelor's in electrical engineering from Princeton, a master's in computer science from Cornell, and 5 years of data science experience in industry. I'm also a New York State EMT, so have a basic medical training. In addition, my co-founder, he has a legal and business background working in the transportation regulatory reform space. We've also been lucky enough to be acknowledged and awarded by a number of institutions, including some initial funding from Cornell. So I just wanted to call that out here. So thank you, and we look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you to Meili Technologies. So our next startup actually will not be able to present, or I'm sorry, we will go ahead and get started with TGO's session.
Hello everyone, this is Jakub with TGO. We are a London-based startup specializing in software-enabled surfaces. And what that means simply is that we take everyday polymers and turn them into control surfaces and experiences for your customers. One of our chief advantages is that because we don't use any in-mold electronics, we've dramatically simplified the supply chain and the assembly of these devices, and we give design teams an ability to really design for the form, design for the interaction, and offer full freedom of design in terms of how the device looks. And really with that, we give them a chance to build really exciting interfaces, really exciting devices that hopefully build long-term brand loyalty. We can detect touch, gesture, pressure, movement, and deformation using only the polymers itself. So it's a very low cost, low tech approach because we use already the materials that are already present in consumer electronics devices, in automotive devices, but we use them in a smarter, more connected way. Our technology is driven by machine learning, signal processing, and that's how we can create these beautiful interactive surfaces, as I said, for consumer electronics, gaming, automotive, metaverse, and so forth. This is just a kind of quick example of what's possible to achieve. We pride ourselves on beautiful finishing, beautiful shapes that are really interactive and call out to the user to really touch them, use them. Through shape, we want to enable those exciting customer experiences and relationships. Another aspect of our technology is pressure mapping. So we can use soft goods like EVA foam and other soft polymers to detect weight distribution, weight movement, balance, etc. We've seen great uptake in this technology in home fitness companies, wearables, insoles, yoga mats. That's all we can use our technology for. So just purely from pressure data, we can extract a person's balance, animate them, and this then can be used to drive in-home fitness experiences, gaming, seating use cases, etc. The company has been founded in 2015. We have now 30 people on board. Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you to TGO. So we are now on the right startup, but this startup is German Autolabs. They actually will not be able to join us today due to the situation that is happening in Ukraine. A great portion of their company is based in Ukraine, so unfortunately they won't be able to actually pitch today or join us, but we still wanted to give them a shout out and we still wanted to congratulate them on graduating from our batch. German Autolabs is a voice AI assistant for professional drivers. So you will still be able to answer the poll during the Q&A session in order to get connected with them if you are interested. So we will now go on to our next startup, who is Angoka. Angoka is an IoT security startup focused on protecting machine-to-machine communications for smart mobility and smart cities. We'll hand it off to you.
Hello, my name is Yuri Anderson, and I'm the CEO of Angoka. Angoka's mission is to secure the machine-to-machine communication of the future. Angoka was founded by 4 serial entrepreneurs who between us have 5 exits, including 2 IPOs. Myself, I'm trained as an astrophysicist and have a background in investment banking and fintech startups where I have 1 exit. I'm also a part-time entrepreneur in residence at the UK's Quantum Technologies Enterprise Centre, where I've helped spin out 22 deep tech companies in the last 4 years. We set up Angoka about 3 years ago because we realized that security for connected devices was the next big thing. And today I'm going to share with you how we are solving the problem of making connected devices protected. Fiat Chrysler had to recall 1.4 million vehicles at a cost of nearly $1 billion because of a hack. They weren't the only ones. That happened to Ford, Volvo, Tesla. In fact, most major car companies have been compromised. So what could we do about this? Well, we realized that cars are essentially just computers on wheels full of electronic components. So we added on unique electronic fingerprints to those components, and that, along with our patented security protocol, allows these components to unforgeably identify themselves. And that is what creates trust in the communication. Angoka's solution represents a complete paradigm shift. We focus on securing the devices rather than the networks. And there will be up to 1 trillion connected devices in the next few years, so this is a massive problem. Because these connected devices communicate over a complex web of networks, from Wi-Fi to 5G to SATCOMs, and it is this complexity that means that the end-to-end security of the communication cannot be guaranteed. So we have now developed a solution for securing vehicle everything, or V2X communication, along with the Warwick Manufacturing Group, a world leader in automotive cybersecurity. And taking our mobility solution even one step further, we are developing the next generation secure drone communications, along with Altitude Angel, one of the world's leading UAV traffic management providers, to ensure that drones can fly safely around our cities. And we're working with British Telecom to build a quantum secure 5G backbone for critical national infrastructure. In fact, we're addressing a $50 billion market opportunity. We have a truly scalable platform technology, and we are the team to deliver. So we're now looking to engage with potential customers, partners, as well as investors, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are about to be in our second Q&A session. With that being said, if you have any questions for the 3 startups that just presented, you can go ahead and drop them in the Q&A portion. For our startups, please go ahead and turn on your cameras and your microphones. And also, if anyone has a specific question for a startup in the Q&A box, our startups will go in and respond to those individual questions versus answering them live. So thank you all. I would love to give you the opportunity to introduce yourselves. We can start with Meili Technology.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Janae. I'm John, co-founder at Meili Tech.
And then TGO.
Hi, everyone. It's Jakub with TGO. I'm VP Business Development.
And then Yuri, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Yuri Anderson. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Angoka.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourself. So we have one question for the entire panel for everyone to answer. So the question is, how do you think about bringing automakers into the development process of an in-cabin experience? How do you make sure your vision for an in-cabin experience matches up with the visions that automakers have for their drivers? And we can go ahead again and get started with Meili Technologies.
Great question. Well, we hope and we think that all manufacturers have the common goal of safety and reaching as many audiences as possible. So for us, obviously, we're trying to reach older adults and individuals who might have an underlying condition, as well as all people. Anything can always happen. And then from there, we would look to, if there's anything specific, for example, that a manufacturer wants its car to do in way of reaction, we're very interested in making our solution detailed in that respect. But we view it as what should be a global and common goal, and open to, as I just said, specifying for each manufacturer.
Thank you. Jacob, can you go next?
Yeah, of course. So just listening back to my own pitch, I think I used design 3 times. So this is a question that is very relevant to what we do. So our technology gives OEM design teams really a blank canvas. I don't dictate the kind of customer experience. I rather solve certain challenges that traditional cap sensing and touch sensing solutions have. So the design teams can really do whatever they want to do and things that they have not potentially been able to do in the past. My team is fairly small, let's say 25, 30 people. We can't match the ergonomics, the human factors, the perceived quality, specialists, like expertise that OEMs have on board. So we give them all the tools that can realize their vision, but ultimately they drive the design conversation.
Thank you. And then Yuri?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess Angoka's taken this the cybersecurity angle on how we manage our data within the vehicles, and of course, the in-cabin experience will be driven by software updates and new apps to be installed in the vehicle, and what we can make sure is that is happening securely, so that there are no leaks of data into the functioning of the vehicle, so no hackers can come in through an infotainment system or whatever it might be and take control of the vehicle. So that's our angle. We want to enable the flexibility of being able to update the software that provides this in-cabin experience.
Thank you all so much. Once again, if anyone has any individual questions in the audience for any of the startups, feel free to drop it in the chat or in the Q&A portion of the Zoom, and our startups will answer individually. And thank you again, and congratulations to you all for graduating. We'll get started with our next round of pitches.
Thank you.
And we're getting started with Phantasma Labs.
Hi, this is Rama from Phantasma Labs. Phantasma Labs is a Berlin-based startup with team members with deep expertise in simulation sciences, automotive engineering, AI, and machine learning. We are funded by some of the well-known investors in Japan and Europe, and also have partnerships with companies across the industry. Phantasma Labs provides scenario datasets and behavior models for virtual testing and validation of autonomous driving functions. If we look at the problem space, engineers building autonomous driving features need millions of scenario datasets in order to train, test, and validate their path planning functions. The most prominent way of getting these datasets is by driving real fleets of cars or collecting video streams from drones. If in any case engineers need a new dataset or want to change certain parameters within an existing dataset, the only way to achieve this is by going to the real world and collecting new scenarios that fulfill the requirements. This process is highly expensive and will involve thousands of man-hours. We solve this with our product, which we call as a behavior model. Our behavior model is in essence an AI model that is trained on real-world datasets. When plugged into existing simulation frameworks, the intelligent agents within our behavior models will represent realistic traffic user behaviors in various virtual worlds. Through our behavior models, engineers can understand what are the various ways in which pedestrians interact with a self-driving car, what are the various ways in which other road users like drivers or bicyclists navigate through complex traffic conditions. In order to build our behavior models, we collect a lot of data from real worlds, and we extract the trajectories that are contained within these datasets. Our AI models learn from the hidden behaviors comprised within these trajectories. It is this learned behavior model that we ship to our customers, who then plug in these models into the existing simulation frameworks. When plugged in a core simulation environment, our behavior models inject realistic traffic behaviors in various virtual worlds. Our behavior models can be used to train, test, and validate path planning functions of various levels of autonomy. Our behavior models can cater to needs of lower levels of autonomy with use cases of automated emergency braking, cruise control, lane keeping features, and also the highest level of autonomy features like driving under complex urban traffic conditions. With our behavior models, engineers can achieve higher coverage within the operational design domain. increase the chance of complying with SOTIF and other standards like ISO 26262, achieve all of these at much faster rate and much cheaper costs, and achieve high level of variations of behaviors at scale. We can integrate our behavior models with various environmental simulators out there in the market, or even in-house simulation tools. We are working intensely with the global automotive companies, and we are looking forward to engaging with further players in the form of POCs. Thank you.
Thank you to Phantasma Labs. Next up, we have MightyFly. So we will get started with MightyFly.
Hi, I am Manal Habib, the CEO of MightyFly. At MightyFly, we're building the future of logistics via large autonomous cargo aircraft that can carry up to 500 pounds of cargo and have a range up to 600 miles. So far, we have built the first autonomous aircraft carrying 100 pounds of cargo. We have received our special airworthiness certification from the FAA, and we have performed autonomous flight here in the US. The problem we're solving is the problem of expedited delivery being both expensive and limited, whether we're talking about the van or the small drone. At MightyFly, we're solving this via our autonomous cargo aircraft.
At MightyFly, we have developed an innovative, carbon-neutral, full-scale solution that completely reimagines expedited delivery. It all starts with the MightyFly autonomous aircraft, the MF100, and the next-generation MF500. Our cargo aircraft can carry up to 500 pounds over 600 miles at a max speed of 150 miles per hour. The MF100 has received a special airworthiness certification from the FAA and has performed autonomous flights.
The secret behind the sauce is our autonomous aircraft, the MF100, and the next generation, the MF500. They both service up to 600 miles in range, enabling both mid-mile and last-mile logistics. And they have a hybrid propulsion system, enabling us to recharge batteries in flights. The MF100 has received a special airworthiness certification from the FAA, enabling it to perform autonomous flight here in the US. With our technology, we're going to provide a logistics delivery service that is efficient and flexible, enabling just-in-time manufacturing and efficient inventory management. As well, will save you money up to 60%. In addition to that, we are building a future of logistics that is sustainable. We will start with carbon neutral, and then we'll move to completely clean energy. And last but not least, we will enable you to expand your market reach. We're currently with discussions with about 30 customers across the globe, from the US to Australia to Singapore to Japan, to perform pilots in 2023. And we would love to work with you as well. We believe that this is the perfect time. From the customer side, they want their deliveries now. From the technology standpoint, it is ready, and the regulations are moving. And at MightyFly, we have the best team to build this. Myself, I have a long career in the aerospace industry, starting with MIT and Stanford. I built the first robust commercial autopilot. As well, I'm a pilot, and I'm building my own two-seater airplane in my garage. Together with me, we have Peter with 20 years of experience in software, including Whisk, Kitty Hawk, and Rockwell, and Greg with 20 years of experience in BD, including Voom Airbus. In addition to our strong engineering team, we have a great advisory board with John, a VP of FedEx for 27 years. At MightyFly, we are building the future of logistics via large autonomous cargo aircraft. If you would like to be part of the future, come talk to us.
Thank you so much to MightyFly. We're going to move on to our next startup, which is Neurobotx.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dana, and I am presenting Neurobotx, which is focused on building autonomy through the metaverse. Hello, Plug and Play Detroit. The metaverse is going to require 1000x more computing power. This is coming from the VP of Intel Accelerated Systems, and it means we're going to need access to petaflops in less than a millisecond. By 2025, we will have 100 zettabytes of data on the cloud, and already the global demand for semiconductor chips is surpassing supply. Meanwhile, when it comes to autonomy and mobility, we're spending $600 billion per year on R&D, And as you very well know, level 5 autonomy still did not pass regulators, which means that the R&D did not go into production. There is only one technology in the world that can have this increase in speed. It's called neuromorphic computing, and it's our proprietary technology. It can also reduce the cost by up to 90% and up to 10,000x in energy efficiency. How does this work? Well, first of all, we learn from events, not pixels. This is what we see when we look at this black dot moving. Most importantly, when there are no events, there are no recordings with our sensors. And also when something moves really fast, the microsecond range, we have no lag. So our software is actually picking up on the events that it's extracting from the video data, and then it is removing all of the unnecessary data. So we built this platform in a partnership with Intel. It's a signed partnership for the neuromorphic chip, as well as Sony for the neuromorphic cameras. And this is how it works. So here, indeed, you have a UAV flying autonomously using a neuromorphic camera. The user can train our spiking neural network running on the Loihi 2 chip and generate training data, revenue, and faster regulatory approval, in this case for level 5 air taxis. So again, in the simulation, this is what it sees with the neuromorphic camera, and it's still able to navigate fully autonomously. This is how we interact with companies like yours in a direct plug and play way. So let's say we want to train 100 human and 100 AI pilots. We can look at their performance, improvement per session, action points, both inside and outside the vehicle. So MetaPilot is the air taxi metaverse simulator. We already started a POC at 100K pounds with Boeing as part of their AI and autonomy program, as well as with BMW. This is our client pipeline, and essentially MetaPilot has two sides. One of them is consumer facing for people in the metaverse that like to play around with air taxis or cars or fighter jets, as well as enterprise, which allows companies like yours get access to thousands, if not dozens or hundreds of thousands of training data that fits to the reports that your regulators ask for in order to push your autonomy product roadmap. And of course, you get access to 30 years of world-leading R&D when it comes to autonomous AI pilots. So why corporations buy this? Again, immediate revenue, very important for both aerospace and vehicles during the pandemic via the metaverse game simulator, as well as the proprietary data that companies like yours can get access to. And of course, faster approval when it comes to levels 4 and 5 of autonomy. Sony, Samsung, and Intel are the main corporations pushing neuromorphic technology, buying it, and as of last year, putting it into mass production, which actually led to a growth of 87% KGI for neuromorphic vision compared to the 7% of standard machine learning, which means we are building a new era of autonomous navigation. This is part of our team. There's myself. I'm the CEO and founder. I have a PhD from the Max Planck Institute on imaging systems for neurobiology. I have built a lot of those. I also did my postdoc with the 2 Nobel laureates that discover navigation in the brain, and this is what Neurobotx is about. Nishant is doing his PhD at NYU on neuromorphic engineering. Dr. Balam, you guessed it, she also has a PhD in neurobiology. She's been a corporate AI advisor at General Motors, NEY for 10 years, and lots of other talented people. We get them through our collaborations with universities as well as with large corporations. We also have a convertible note from Mubadala, Boeing, and a few other major partners. So we are raising, that's the most important part, our $10 million Series A. These are hires that we want to go for. Obviously, to have B2C and B2B revenue that is scalable by Series B, we actually want our platform to also include the cameras and the chips so that we're full stack and able to deliver the 10,000x reduction in energy consumption that we promised. That is it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to our final startup that will be doing their pitch is BloXmove. Let's go.
Hello, my name is Sophia and I'm CEO of BloXmove, and we are on a mission to reinvent urban mobility by connecting all the types of mobility like scooters, trains, car sharing, bikes in one urban mobility alliance. And we connect electric vehicles to the energy grid in order to balance renewable energies. Our history is together with Mercedes-Benz, so we jointly incubated the mobility blockchain platform over more than 3 years. We did a management buyout last year and founded BloXmove in May 2021. Since then, we are in the seed stage and have more than 16 signed customers generating the first traction on our mobility blockchain platform. What we're solving is the friction and fragmentation of urban mobility infrastructure. Because right now we see end users on the road with more than 20, 25 apps for one city. If you travel to another city or country, you need a new set of apps, have to download, to register, and so on. Also on the provider side, you see tons of hassles when it comes to all the centralized solutions, and they lose synergies and also benefits from collaboration. But we see right now, many aggregation apps try to integrate all the different solutions. The problem is that the provider loses the customer touch point and have to pay revenue for that. What we want to create is a decentralized mobility alliance on eye level. And as end user, you can roam through that ecosystem. So you have one entry point, maybe your favorite local scooter app, and you can book also a blue car with your scooter app. And if you travel to another city, you can still use your local app solution from your country. That's the idea of roaming, which we know already from data roaming. So it's a very similar mechanism, what we know with our SIM card and our telecommunication providers. So we are not an app. We are not the next aggregation app. You will never find BloXmove in an app store. We are software backend infrastructure for providers, for B2B customers. What we are doing, we create automation and also security when it comes to transaction communication. So all transactions from identification, smart contracting via settlement are run through our blockchain distributed ledger technology. We use Ethereum, Energy Web, and Corda as nets, as main nets, and connect all the customers like shared mobility, rental fleets, like public transportation, and also charging point providers and energy providers. That's a team. We are 3 founders, as I said, and more than 20 BloXmovers in the team. And together we have many, many years of expertise and network in the automotive industry. If you want to collaborate with us, 3 elements are very important for us. First of all, introductions to more transport operators. Furthermore, if you know nice talents from the crypto or DLT space, let me know and I'm happy to get in touch with them. And last but not least, we plan around Series A for next year, around about 10 or 12 months. So whenever you have contacts to industry VCs, mobility VCs, I'm really happy to talk to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It is now time for our last live Q&A. So for anyone that has any questions, you can go ahead and submit them in the Q&A box. Our startups will answer any individual questions in that box. We can go ahead and get all of our cameras turned on for the startups, and I will launch the poll as well. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. So I will give everyone the chance to introduce themselves. We can go ahead and get started with Phantasma Labs.
Hi, everyone. This is Rama from Phantasma Labs, joining from Berlin. I'm the CEO and co-founder. Thank you.
Thank you. And then next we have MightyFly.
Hi, this is MightyFly, and I am Manal Habib, the CEO, and I am happy to be here today to tell you about the future of logistics we are building via our large autonomous cargo aircrafts.
Thank you. Neurobotx.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dana, CEO of Neurobotx here. Greetings from Dubai. It is very late, and it's a pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you. And then finally, BloXmove.
Hey, I'm Sarah Lisa. I'm located in Berlin, and I'm BloXmove's head of business development and sales.
Thank you all so much for joining, and again, congratulations for graduating from the Detroit batch. So our question for the entire panel is that safety seems to be at the forefront of autonomous mobility. So how do you prioritize safety into your product and business? And we can get started with Phantasma Labs.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for giving me this opportunity and giving me the chance to present our company. So with regard to the question, we are targeting safety as a core value proposition for our automotive customers. What we tend to focus is to improve the self-driving functions for safety of road users, in the sense like if autonomous cars interacting safely with pedestrians, bicyclists, and other road users. And the way we do this is by providing enough information of various scenarios, literally millions of scenarios, that autonomous cars have to navigate under complex road conditions. So that kind of information will help the AI brains of the self-driving cars to kind of foresee and overcome these scenarios and handle challenging scenarios in various ways. So for us, our mission is to really improve the safety of self-driving cars before they're deployed in the mass market. Thank you.
Thank you. And MightyFly?
So this is a great question. And the way we see safety at MightyFly, and I would say in general aviation, it is one of our highest priorities. And this is pretty much the concept that defines how we build our autonomous aircraft. So at MightyFly, given that we fall under general aviation, we are following all of the safety regulations from the FAA, which means we are building a redundancy in our system at every layer. So we are following the standards and we're going after that 135, which are very strict. And I would say one of the strictest standards on terms of safety in all, I would say, the industries that we see across. And pretty much the goal that we're going after here is to build autonomous aircraft that will meet the same standards as, for example, a 787 aircraft.
Thank you, Manal. We'll have Diana go next.
Sorry, is that me?
Yes.
All right. So yes, actually tomorrow we also have our demo day from our Boeing program. And as you know, they had some issues in the past with planes crashing. And our job is actually to make sure that things are tested in simulation beforehand sufficiently before things are tested in hardware. So we focused on air taxis at the moment, and we actually work very closely with regulators to make sure that we achieve the highest level of safety. So with upcoming air taxis and eVTOLs, if there are specific examples where regulators have concerns, for example, traffic lights, skyscrapers, incoming birds, we can provide hundreds of thousands of hours of training data within our VR app, and then make sure that those things never happen. So connecting to what our colleague said, I think this is a great time for everyone because machine learning is evolving, simulation is evolving at the same time, and we have the unique possibility of testing things hundreds of thousands of times in simulation before releasing them. So that's kind of our job at Neurobotx.
Thank you, Neurobotx. And finally, Sarah Lisa.
Yeah, so as Sophia mentioned, our the core of our technology is the distributed ledger technology or blockchain technology. And in our case, it's more about security than safety. So we make sure that I can't right now. Sorry, that's my 2-year-old son who should sleep right now. And yeah, we make sure that transactions go through, right? And we do this proof of contract when it comes to that you ride a bike or a scooter or a train or whatever. And actually the transport operators, they take care of the physical safety of the people who are traveling. Exactly.
Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you for coming. And of course, like I said, we want to give you a congratulations. We want to congratulate all of the startups from our batch who graduated. And thank you again. We see your questions in the chat and the startups will answer them individually after this. Thank you again, everyone. Our last thing, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Brooke.
Thank you, Janae. Amazing keynote, amazing pitches from our batch startups, and it's really great to have such engagement from the audience. I just want to take a second to thank you all for being here at our expo, and congratulations again to our batch 2 startups. It's amazing to have such industry relevant startups graduating from our program and engaging with the Detroit ecosystem. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brooke Ruprecht, and I'm our Partner Success Manager here at Plug and Play Detroit. I'm responsible for the engagement and success of our corporate partners on our platform. And corporate engagement really consists of exploration, introductions, and exposure of trending startups that match the corporation's tech interest areas in order to amplify their innovation efforts and stay competitive in an ever-changing mobility landscape. I would like to announce the winner of our Corporate Innovation Award, Stellantis. Stellantis has been a great example of how to utilize Plug and Play and our global startup ecosystem to support in bringing new technologies and services to market. The team at Plug and Play has selected Stellantis as the winner based on their recent success with Batch 0 startup Haas Alert in developing and implementing the emergency vehicle alert system, as well as their success with California-based startup Miles in implementing Stellantis Miles, a reward-based program for Stellantis customers. The quick development and implementation of both the EVAS feature and Stellantis Miles are prime examples of exceptional collaboration between the Stellantis team and startups. We are honored to present our Corporate Innovation Award to Stellantis and cannot wait to see what they'll do next. At that, I would like to introduce our champion at Stellantis, Tripco, to say a few words about the work they're doing, how they view the importance of corporate innovation, and how the partnership with Plug and Play has contributed to their innovation efforts. Tripco, the floor is yours.
Amazing. Thank you, Brooke. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to receive this award on behalf of Stellantis. I want to extend my gratitude to Plug and Play for recognizing on this. As far as innovation goes and Plug and Play's contribution to that, I think everyone's seen the media headlines, the announcements from CES, and likewise about our journey and our transition to a mobility tech company. And really Plug and Play being right here in Detroit helps to accelerate that and make that happen by connecting us with great startups in innovative and in tech industries to help accelerate our innovation efforts and bringing great products and great user experiences for our end customers at the end of the day. So super thrilled with the great success we've had with EVAS and our Stellantis Miles program that you hit on, and I want to continue that journey and work with additional startups through the Plug and Play network to continue to innovate. Thank you for having us.
Amazing. And if we were in person, of course, I would turn the award actually in person and hand it to you, but that will be coming in the mail. And I know Stellantis, like I said, we greatly value your partnership, and we're really excited as a founding anchor partner, as well as BorgWarner Office of Future Mobility and Electrification and the Michigan Minority Supplier and Development Council. As a founding partner, Stellantis was very active role in voting on the final startups in this accelerator program. And it's really great to have you guys so involved and have such a say in how the Detroit Accelerator program has evolved and continues to spit out, if you will, industry relevant startups. So again, thank you for your efforts and the partnership.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate it.
Moving on to the last portion, I'll hand this back over to Janae.
Yes, thank you everyone for attending. And I did realize that I did not introduce myself, but I am Janae Wilson and I am the program associate here at the Detroit office. And I just want to once again finally thank all of the startups for joining us and for pitching, and also congratulate you. I would love to thank our keynote speaker and congratulations to Stellantis as well. Thank you all so much for attending. We hope to see you again soon. And for everyone who requested an intro with any of the startups, we will be handling those email introductions within the week to come. Thank you again so much everyone for attending.